What's going on, boys and girls? Today, changing up the view a little bit, I am here to review another fragrance from the House of Mind Games, and this is As-Suli's Diamond from, does it show? No, it doesn't say Mind Games on it. Well, that's crazy. Anyways, so far we've been covering most of these reviews on the computer, but you guys know, excuse me, I like to change up the view a little bit so that you guys have, just some change ups. I know a lot of you guys listen to me go on my rants and stuff when you're working out or in the car or at the workplace. But for all my visual learners out there who, are tired of seeing me in front of the computer, I'll always get up and go to a different part in the house, um, you know, film on the job, various things like that, um, to mix things up. So we are talking about this fragrance right here, the Suli's Diamond. I do have all the information for my typical reviews. So just because I'm not on the computer doesn't mean you won't get all of the nuts and bolts information. This is a unisex fragrance, so men and women. Retails at $400. Typically you'll find it between $250 and $350 at discounters. I've seen it go as low as $220. If you know, you know. And this got a 3.32 out of 5 rating, only 170 votes. So this is one of the Mind Games fragrances no one's talking about, no one's smelling. Maybe because you can only acquire it getting a discovery set, and the discovery set is north of $100. Most people I know are willing to pay $30 to $60 to $75 for a discovery set. Once you start getting past that, it's like, I'll just go to the store and smell it. But I've never actually even seen this in like the Neiman's and stuff, at least out here in Arizona. This has no classification for what type of scent it is, but due to the picture, it says there's an emphasis on cypress smoke. So maybe that tells us a little bit about this. Came out in 2022. So a lot of the fragrances up until now have come out 2023 or later. So this is one of the earlier fragrances. It has a whole write-up on it, but quite frankly, I don't care. Let's just get straight into the review with an initial impression. Shout out to day 3 for the dope test strips. And we're going to get straight into it. I'm going to try to make these concise, like 10, 15 minutes max. And I never set the time for my reviews. I will tell you everything you need to know and everything that I'm experiencing as it relates to what I think will be most valuable for you. And then I will turn the camera off. So sometimes that's been 5 minutes. More commonly, that's been about 10, sometimes 20 if the fragrance is amazing and I have to break down why. Some of the worst atomizers in the game, by the way, but 2 sprays on the hand, infinity sprays on the test strip. Only reason I still put the fragrances on test strip is to see if there's a difference between the test strip and skin, because I know a lot of you guys try fragrances on test strips and sometimes you leave it at that and don't put it on your skin, maybe because you already have a fragrance on, or maybe because you just haven't put that into your habit yet of testing. But putting it on your skin is essential because that's where it's going to live, and some fragrances have such a dramatic shift that what you smell in the store might not be what you get in the bottle when you come home. So off the bat, I kind of get a very Ylang Ylang-ish white, powdery, soft floral. This seems prominent in Ylang Ylang. We're going to check in a second, but normally that kind of yellow, floral, dusty, sweet, Ylang Ylang is what I would call kind of a superhero floral, meaning it's very potent, pungent, and it's distinguishable from many just general floral smells. Everybody knows, if you smell rose, you can normally spot it a mile away. If you smell peony, you can spot it a mile away. And Ylang Ylang is no different. And so a lot of the fragrances that have Ylang Ylang in them, it's 40% or more of the fragrance in terms of what you detect in the air, which is great for women, but for men, not so much from what I've gathered. Now, that's just my opinion. Let me pause for a second. I'm still navigating through the growing fact that people want to feel inclusive in this space. And I'm becoming growingly aware that when we talk about masculinity and femininity in fragrance, people lack the capacity as grown adults to take what somebody's saying for what they're trying to go with it and the information they're trying to provide. They really get offended quickly. So for instance, when I made the statement I just made about Ylang Ylang, a lot of people come from the standpoint or attitude that they're immediately going to either turn this video off or immediately think the sentiment of, well, anyone can wear what they want and Ylang Ylang isn't inherently feminine and all that stuff. Guys, this is not a philosophical debate about the concept of who perfumery is for and what notes smell like a man and a woman and all that stuff. This is about culture and how we've been shaped to view things. And you don't have to believe in, you don't have to have a belief system in, though you don't have to believe in the culture, in the perspective, to understand what the communicator is saying. You can listen to somebody with a completely different opinion than you and completely different biases and maybe even a different moral compass and still extract truths that will help you to buy or not buy the fragrance. And so I've found myself lately constantly having to kind of, oh, by the way, anyone can wear what they want with my reviews so that people that are softer are accounted for. But guys, you know I love everybody. You know I'm inclusive of everybody in the community, whether you're a guy that wears women's fragrances or vice versa, whether you wear a lot of unisex fragrances, or whether you even care what I have to say or not. I'm very respectful of the community. I love the community, and I'm more importantly, I love this fragrance thing, and I'm just trying to get you guys information. So kind of from this point forward, I'm going to try to stop policing myself from just sharing my perspective and my view of fragrances. And I find that in my community and people who I discuss fragrance with and fragrance wearers around me, Ylang Ylang is typically, when it's dominant in a fragrance, geared feminine in concept, not in literality or some kind of policing on how you wear fragrances. And for that reason, a lot of men would steer away from a fragrance like this because it has a dominant, seemingly feminine, yellow floral, kind of creamsicle-ish vibe. But if you're into that, ignore what I just said. Yeah, picture a soft, smooth, creamy, slightly dusted Ylang Ylang creamsicle. It's airy, it's middleweight to lightweight. Let me see if on the skin the weight changes. It wears quite soft. A double of what a glorified skin scent would feel like. So, you know, a skin scent for me kind of feels very much this much away from the skin in terms of distance, just tiny aura. This feels like this. So less than a foot, maybe a half of a foot of projection, not much of a sillage scent. This is the type of scent where you'd barely smell it in the air unless someone was really close and walked by you, or they gave you a hug, or they're standing right here having a conversation with you, moving their hands, that type of scent. So it's a lighter, dainty, more angelic take on the Ylang Ylang, but it is a seemingly very girly, or at the very least desserty level of yellow floral. And that's what I'm mostly getting. Ylang Ylang creamsicle. And it does the same thing on skin. It's just a little bit more robust, obviously. Let me read you some notes real quick on this fragrance. Let's go to the notes to actually see if Ylang Ylangs what I'm smelling. Yes. So as you guys can see here, this is the note breakdown. We're looking at up top, fig leaf, orange, bergamot. In the middle, broom, which is a yellow floral, Ylang Ylang tonka bean. I'm getting a lot of that tonka bean. So look at it like an Ylang Ylang tonka bean creamsicle. Incense, opoponax, which is a synthetic resin, I believe, amberwood, and myrrh. So to be honest, I'm quite surprised to see so much incense and resin in the base, because when I go to my hand, it's not smoky, it's barely resinous. I get a bit of amber resinous kind of candy sparkle, kind of similar to like your amorous ohms and stuff like that, or your instant crush baccarat-ish kind of saffron candiedness, but it's not spicy at all. It's way more about that creamsicle kind of milky yellow floral thing going on. And I'm well into the base now, 10 minutes into the review, and it still has not gotten smoky or resinous or incensey at all. So disregard that in the note pyramid. It smells a lot more 90% dominant of those middle notes there in the section. Let me just double check the longevity. It's showing for longevity that it's moderate. I don't think a fragrance like this will go more than 4 hours before going to be a skin scent, unless you're overly spraying or unless you're layering below it. And then it says the sillage is extremely moderate. I don't imagine any sillage with this fragrance, to be honest. No trail whatsoever. If you packed the sprays on in the first hour, you might have a 2-foot sillage, but after that, you're gone. I would call it more of a projection scent bubble, not really a trail of scent. Fragrances this might smell like. The first one that comes to mind is one that I haven't shown you guys yet. It's actually an exclusive from Logitech, and this is called Living. Beautiful bottle. And just curious, actually, and this is a women's fragrance, by the way. I am curious as to how close this is. So I'm going to spray that on my skin. That's the first reference material for this fragrance. The second one would be from Novitus Parfums, Carte Blanche, Colonial Oud from Aqua de Parma, Regent Leather from Thameen, Cuba Gold from Cuba, you know, the cigar-looking fragrance, but more yellow floral take on that, but the texture of it is the same. And let's smell this Lalique real quick. The Lalique is more of a floral bergamot lift. This is more of a creamy, powdery, kind of J'adore-ish, Shalimar-ish kind of thing. But it's that type of texture on a purely yellow floral creamsicle type of DNA. It's very light. It's not rich. It's not complex. It's robust. I love the Lalique more, but that's okay. It's hard to get that fragrance. So this is barely close, maybe 75%. This is more along the lines of that kind of, you know, J'adore-ish type of thing. But it's much softer and creamier, even like a Kerosene Unknown Pleasures, which kind of is like a almost lemon cupcakes, you know, frothy whipped cream, or not whipped cream, frothy like lemon buttercream frosting, but the most lightish, airy version of that. So it's even got a little bit of that Dior texture. Hopefully you guys know what I mean by that. Yeah, let's go through the usual suspects. That part I have to recall from memory. I'm gonna say a fragrance like this is unisex with a hard feminine lean, just due to the prominent Ylang Ylang. Seasons, really it's a 4 seasons wear because of the weight, but the scent profile leans fall winter, but it's more of a lighter composition. So in fall, winter, or heavy breeze environments, I feel like this fragrance would need a layer under it with a lot of 10 plus 20 sprays aura around you to really hold up in fall, winter. But it is a light, airy, freshy take on a kind of gourmandish, entry gourmand profile. It does get more powdery and clean and fresh rather than Ylang Ylang-ish, but that Ylang Ylang is still the backbone of this fragrance. I would say in the first hour, it's probably going to feel very much like the Ylang Ylang is 60 to 70% of the fragrance. But once it really settles into the dry down, which I've put about 2-3 sprays on my arm, it starts to feel like the Ylang Ylang is more 40%, and then an overcovering of kind of this clean, fresh, angelic, white, powdery, possibly creamy experience. Alternatives to this, I would highly recommend, if you like anything like this, Kerosene's Unknown Pleasures is this times 5. Way more robust, way more projective, truly sillage, crazy, you know, longevity, you know, 8 to 10 hours plus performance, more favored in the gourmand while still being fresh. It's just a great scent. I think Unknown Pleasures might be it for me. And that wasn't listed on the alternatives for Fragrantica. You'll just have to trust my word on it. So probably somewhere between J'adore and Kerosene. The Kerosene Unknown Pleasures is more that lemon cupcake in an ice cream shop kind of feel. The J'adore and the Shalimar is more of that sweet, old feminine, that old feminine, luxurious, motherly, you know, mid-20s, 30s girl on her way, angelic presence, and leans more on the powder and not the lemoniness or the bergamot or the Ylang Ylang. It's less floral. But anyways, guys, that was Mind Games' As-Suli's Diamond. And as a score, I think I'm somewhere at I would be gracious giving it a 7. I'm going to give it a 6. I think for the Mind Games caliber, what they represent, what most of their juices have felt like, the quality, the performance, all of that, this feels very much bottom of the barrel. Again, it got a 3.3 out of 5, so you can kind of see why my score is that low. I do think it's below average for the niche realm. It can feel like you know, a designer fragrance with not a lot of performance. But I think for this profile, not having performance is just damaging. Like it ruins my perception of the fragrance. But it is a good smell and soft and faint. I just think you're going to find a lot of stuff like it that's much cheaper. So with that being said, I'm at a 6 out of 10 with it. This was a fragrance from Mind Games. Like, comment, subscribe, turn on that notification bell. Talk to me, I do talk back. Check out my playlist section where I've organized this channel in terms of what bits are collaborations, entertainment, house dives, just reviews, just shorts. Everything on the channel is sorted in a TV guide kind of way so that you can binge watch based upon whether or not you're early on in your journey or at expert level. Here you'll find every stepping stone to where you want to go next with your fragrance journey, no matter how simple or complex it can get. So hope you appreciated this review. Have a blessed rest of your week, and until next time, peace.